Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the $2 Film Club, a weekly podcast where we discuss the production and various qualities of movies. Today, we have a very special episode as we are talking about slasher films in anticipation of the release of the Until Dawn movie that's coming out this weekend.
Yeah, bro. Have you ever played the Until Dawn game at all?
I'm going to be honest with you, I've never heard of it.
No way, you've never heard of it?
No.
Uh, like I'm pretty sure it's who's it directed by? David F.
Adam,
Sandberg.
yeah, the guy who did like Shazam, like those
Yeah,
movies.
and
Didn't he do like Lights Out too?
he also did that third Annabelle movie. The one that was
Oh, I
actually
haven't seen.
I it was the only one that was decent out of the three though. And he did that I forgot the name of it, but it was like that creature feature film where the monster only comes in the shadows.
Hold on. Let me
Lights
just
Out.
look up.
Something.
Oh, he's a
Um,
Swedish filmmaker.
Regardless,
Um,
this is a film I have no clue what to make of. I'm usually not very big on video game adaptations. Honestly, 99.9% of the time they're dog trash. So I don't think much of them. And honestly, I've been seeing some early reviews of the film from some people, and apparently a lot of people are liking it. But I feel like I hear that a lot with like these early reviews. But like the whole concept of the game, if I can remember correctly, is in the game. I'm trying to remember like how they're like changing it up. In the game, you as the player have the ability to make the decision in the game whether a character lives or dies, but you don't know if it's the correct decision until
mm,
you make it. But the decision might not cost you until like another hour and a half into the game.
mm.
Um, so there's like ways to survive with everybody, have everyone die, have like three people survive. So that's like the really unique aspect of the film. And honestly, or the game, but I'll be real with you, I don't really remember too much of the plot stuff, like the characters. Um, but outside of that, I know they're kind of making it like a Groundhog's Day type film because you
Yeah.
can't really do the same concept. So that's where I'm kind of weary about it.
Yeah, I saw the trailer when I went to go see Mickey 17, and that was like the only time I had seen anything about it. Like I'd seen like some ads on Instagram, but I didn't really care much to watch them. And like watching the trailer, I was just like, "Oh, this is like a slasher film." And what's funny is that we were gonna do like a video game adaptation like episode for this, but then after I saw that trailer, I was like, I don't feel like that's gonna work. And plus, I know you've been dying to talk about slashers, but I don't know. It's definitely a weird, and I've been seeing stuff like in comments of like the trailer, like on YouTube and whatnot, like, oh, this isn't the game, like, oh, we really want to like saying like the filmmakers are being like, oh, we want to like pay respect to like the original game, and then everyone else is just like, but you like made a completely different story. So how does that work?
But it's kind of weird. I forgot the actor's name, but if anyone's played the Call of Duty games, if you've ever seen like the Replacer video game ads for Call of Duty, the guy who plays the Replacer in those plays I don't remember the name of the character from the game, but he's like the narrator per se. Like he's telling you this incident that's happening
Oh,
essentially. Yeah, but it's like kind of
reminds me of
at a
Texas Chainsaw.
not in this, it's totally different in the same sense. Like he's talking directly to the camera. It's very set up
Oh,
weird. Like he's sitting in a very lodgy cabin or like a really dusty room, but there's like a fireplace somewhere ominous, and he's directly talking to the audience and like giving setup, and he's coming back to like reprise that role. So that's what like
oh, in the
kind of,
movie.
yeah, so that's what like really confuses me too, that I wonder like how they're gonna work the aspects of the game in that don't really work for the film and how they're gonna change it.
Mm. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I After seeing the trailer, I don't really want to see this movie. Like it kind of looks pretty generic. And I don't know. The trailer didn't make me interested to like go out and see it. And I mean the slasher genre has never really been my favorite. As you'll probably realize today.
Um, I,
um,
I will say though, I don't want to say I'm a big fan, but I like David F. Sandberg's work. Like he hasn't done anything that's been like terrible or
I've
bad.
only
Like
seen the Shazam movies.
yeah, I forgot you haven't seen like some of his earlier horror stuff, which
No.
they're really solid, but like they're nothing to go home and write about. But also as like a fan of the games, I'm kind of curious to see how like they
Yeah.
do it, and I think that's usually how they get video game adaptation films like people to sit down and watch them. If it's not like
Mhm.
the Super Mario Brothers movie. Um, but like you were saying before, we're here to talk about slashers, brother. How do you
Yes,
feel about
sir.
them? How do you feel?
Like I said, not my favorite. Like you mean like the genre as a
No,
whole,
yeah,
or
just
like
the
the
genre as a
movies?
whole, not even
I
like
mean, to
the
be
three
fair,
films we're
I
talking
haven't
about.
seen a lot of slasher films. God, I'm trying to think of some that I've seen that I can remember. I don't know. I've never, yeah, I've never really been that into like the slasher genre. It's, yeah, I don't know. I like supernatural horror, which is why I like the Conjuring movies and stuff like that. But I enjoyed like Cabin in the Woods that we watched like a couple weeks ago. I know you don't really consider that a slasher movie, but there's like slasher elements in it. And also, even though even though I haven't seen a lot of slasher films, I'm still kind of familiar with like the tropes of the genre. Like everyone who has sex dies like immediately after,
Yeah.
which we're gonna talk about because that happens in these movies. Like the final girl trope is really it's in other horror movie like or other like subgenres of the horror umbrella, but I think it's really like prevalent in like these kind of movies, which again we're going to talk about because all of these movies have a final girl. um,
Well, that's why I kind of when we were discussing like our schedule of like what we wanted to talk about and what films we were choosing, because most of the time we usually do like a bundle of films. We don't do one film
yeah,
directly. And I knew we were talking about you not really knowing too much of like the slasher genre, and like you've really kind of dipped your toes in more so like within the past few months. And we were bringing up the idea. I'm like, bro, let's do like Texas Chainsaw, Halloween, Friday the 13th. And right before we started watching them, I'm like, all right, bro, you have to watch them in this specific order: Texas
yeah, because I
Chainsaw.
was gonna watch Halloween first.
Yeah, and I don't know. Are you glad that I made you do that?
Kind of, because I'm gonna be honest, like as I was watching them, because I watched Texas Chainsaw and Halloween last night, and then this morning I watched Friday the 13th, and with each one I liked them a little more. Like Texas Chainsaw was kind of meh to me. Um, Halloween was all right. And then I kind of like I was texting you, I was watching it, I was like, I'm kind of digging Friday the 13th for some, because I was like, I was totally expecting Friday the 13th to be like the worst one. Like in everything that I've seen, it's looked like not that great. Um, and obviously, like the franchise is, I don't think the franchise is held in that high regard. Um,
No, is definitely not.
and so yeah, I texted you right before I started watching it, and I was like, is Friday the 13th like better or worse than the other two? And you were like, it's worse, and I was like, fuck. But I was pleasantly surprised, but maybe that's why, because I kind of expected Texas Chainsaw to be bad, and I was expecting Halloween to be better than it actually was. And then for Friday, I think I had just given up all hope. So maybe that's why I liked it more. But yeah, I don't know. The reason I wanted to talk about slashers is because well, like I was saying earlier, we were gonna do a video game adaptation one, and we were gonna do like Doom, that one with like The Rock, and
Carl
I don't
Urban
like that
too.
movie.
No
Yeah,
one likes that movie,
I
bro.
don't like that movie. I've never even played the games, and I just think it's an awful movie.
Oh,
Um,
dude, don't play the games and watch it then.
and so when we were like when after I saw the trailer for Until Dawn, I was like, I feel like that movie doesn't match the vibe of Until Dawn. And I just we had just watched Nightmare on Elm Street, um, and I had never seen that any of those movies either. And I really liked that movie. Like it's not like it's not really it's not I didn't like it as like a horror film. I just think it's a really funny movie. And we've been talking about slasher films for like the last couple of weeks, so I was like, oh, let's just make it a slasher episode. And obviously, like we talked about the X trilogy, and that has a lot of influence from not just the slasher genre alone, but also specifically from like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Um, so yeah, I definitely movies that I probably should have seen before now, but here we are. How did we get on
Yeah.
this topic of conversation?
I think it was because we were talking about X, and I was talking so heavily about how it draws like so much influence from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that
Mm,
I kind of was just like, all right, bro, let's go back to like the older films because I feel like we'd been doing a bit more modern type films, so I wanted us to take
oh
it
yeah,
back a little bit. And a good reason why I told you like to watch Texas Chainsaw, then Halloween, then Friday the 13th is just listen to these release years. 1974 with Texas. Halloween came out in 1978, only 4 years later. And then 2 years later, Friday the 13th came out. This was kind of like the renegade run of early slashers because then I'm pretty sure
yeah,
um, A Nightmare on Elm Street came out in like 84, 85. So there's like
yeah,
that time gap between that and when these three first came out. Because at least with Texas Chainsaw, it's a really unique film in the terms of 1974. I know me and you had spoken about this a little bit before, but it takes like the basic concepts of a slasher. You got like the five main characters, but they don't typically fit like the ideas of
like
the
the archetypes.
final, like the yeah, that they set up with Halloween, because I think it's really Halloween and then Friday the 13th that kind of give the slasher that stereotypical formula where you've got like the whore, the jock, the smart one, the stoner, all these different archetype characters, and then you add like with Friday the 13th, it's all about sex. How can we kill these characters in really cool and interesting ways using visual effects with Tom Savini? But Texas Chainsaw really came out before any of those tropes came to be. And so we have a cast of like five teenagers where you have one with a disability, and the two girls aren't mean, they're not rude, they're not your typical slut characters, and the guys are relatively nice in the film, which
Yeah,
is, I think, for me something refreshing, especially seeing that it came out in 1974 when like gender politics and disability politics were a very big thing back in the day when like fighting for accessibility ramps were still going on. So to see like Toby Hooper and Kim Henkel, who wrote this film, to kind of give light to these specific characters, I found unique in itself, but then they kind of stumble over it by just killing everyone in a matter of 5 seconds.
yeah. I it's definitely important to like view these movies through the lens in which like at like of the time in which they were created, and I can totally see why these movies would have been a bigger deal back then. But I don't know. As I'm watching it, I'm like Texas Chainsaw really is like the Saw of its time, because that's another movie that we watched recently. And Saw, like the original Saw, is like it's not as violent and gory as you'd expect. Um, it's more of like a suspense thriller, honestly. Like it's not really like the like what the rest of them would later become with like the whole torture porn thing. Um, but yeah, cuz I was expecting this movie to be not only more violent but more depraved than it actually is. Um and maybe that's also part of why I kind of felt a little like disappointed while I was watching it. I mean, part of it also is just that it feels wrong to say from like, oh, I want to see them brutally be murdered, like, but that's kind of what you go to watch these movies for, um, and I don't know, yeah, it reminds me of X in that like half of the movie is like dedicated to like random stuff happening, um, and then all of a sudden just people start dying left and right, kind of for no reason. At least with like Halloween and Friday the 13th, there's like kind of a motivation for what happens. Um, but in Texas Chainsaw, it just I don't know. It kind of does feel like an excuse just to like kill a bunch of people and then torture the last girl. And that's another thing. Jesus fucking Christ. The last 30 of the minutes of the movie is literally just her screaming nonstop. Like I don't know.
Bro,
It's kind of annoying in that like, and also like she's not really an important character until the end because she's just like the last person alive. Um
well, at least for me, that's my like kind of gripe with all the characters dying, and like to your sense, like we go to watch them like get killed, we go for the kills to a certain extent. My issue is you don't want to see these characters die. I think by the time you get to Friday the 13th, they've kind of figured out the whole concept of what people go for in terms of like quote unquote slashers, and that's to see just people die in really unique, interesting ways. And that's like part of the issue with Friday is because they make the characters so disposable in order to do that. But
yeah.
then they kind of make all the characters disposable just by killing them so fast. But
Yeah, it's kind of it comes off
I
like
don't
really
enjoy seeing
casually.
them die. Yeah, and it just happens one after the other, and you don't really sit on too many of the deaths outside of the first guy's death
Yeah, and
too much.
that's what I like about the Friday the 13th is that like the pacing of that movie feels better up until like the end. Um and yeah, and then like even like we don't really linger on the kills, but you at least get to see like sort of like the majority of it. And then there's more suspense too. Like
Yeah.
it builds up to the kill, and then in Texas Chainsaw it just kind of happens like out of nowhere. Um
My only
and then it
thing is,
happens to it yeah, like it happens one after the other, and it's just like I don't know. It doesn't really you don't get the sense that they're ever in danger, and then you don't get the sense that any of them really care about what's going on. You know what I mean?
no, yeah, I totally agree, and that's why I think the only kill that does work is the only scene that I think really got iconic outside of like the low angle butt shot walking up to the house is
Oh yeah,
when
the
Kirk
ending.
first walks into the house and the door
Oh
just slides open and he gets smacked in the head. That works because like you're not expecting it, you don't know what this guy's walking into, and then
yeah.
my problem is they kind of repeat that same kill later on with Jerry, so
Oh yeah.
they kind of just repeat it with only five characters, and that's my issue. Is like you already have such a limited amount of people you have to deal with that you already run out of ideas that you have to kill the third character the same exact way or the fourth character to die the same exact way as the first one.
Honestly, honestly, I would have rather like what I would have preferred is that he actually like makes progress in like trying to get her like in trying to escape with her, and then instead of Leatherface chasing what's her name, Sally or whatever,
Yeah,
instead of him chasing Sally for 20 minutes straight, we could have had him like trying to like chase them through the yard, and then like because at least then it like gives the audience like hope that they're gonna escape or one of them's gonna escape, and then they don't, like, you know what I
yeah,
mean, like
no,
they're
yeah.
getting closer to like reaching their friends, and then they just die, not but
Well,
like because the kill means more then, you know what I mean.
it just kind of feels like they're using it as a method to get the viewer like inch by inch deeper into the house. You know what I mean? Because each character just kind of gets furthered before they
But
get killed.
we've already seen with what is his name, Jerry.
Yeah.
We've already seen the room that he dies in because um
But then
he
you see the whole kitchen table with all like the little armrests with the arms when Sally wakes up. Like that's like the whole big quote unquote
Mhm.
reveal is like the family dinner scene. Like that's at least what this film got like notoriety for is like when Sally wakes up and she's at the family table and you're just like, holy fuck, bro, what am I doing here?
Yeah, the last like 10-12 minutes of this movie is the most interesting part of it. Cuz at least there's like something different going on. The twist with like the side characters isn't really that like I didn't enjoy that very much cuz again there's no like build up to it. Um
I like a lot of the ideas that the film does present in terms of
yeah.
yet again go back to like 1974. Think about being a bunch of teenagers going into the back of Texas and then finding out that everyone you've met in the town is in on this like kind of hunting party. And like, well, it's not as like forward front like me and you were talking about with like the cannibalism. There's definitely like evident stuff of it throughout like the end of the film with the dismembered bodies, the grandfather, old man, whatever it is, like sucking the blood out of her finger, and then like them like trying to drain the blood with him smacking her over the head that doesn't wind up
Mhm.
working. Um, so it that's the hard thing when it's we talk about like going back to like not even Texas Chainsaw but Halloween and Friday the 13th. I feel like this is going to kind of be like a common theme between the three is to try and go back and think about what it was like at the time to like dude, they had no cell phones, they didn't have social media, like everything was so much different that it's hard to put ourselves in those shoes, but if you take a second to think about it, like it is horrifying if we take away the concept of like what we think horror is now, where it's like
Yeah.
the torture porn or someone being haunted and possessed with like Evil Dead and people's like cutting their body limbs off, shit like that.
Yeah, I definitely think like as I was watching it I was like, yeah, this doesn't really work for me, but I can totally see why this would cause such of a stir at the time it was released because there wouldn't have been anything like that was like really that violent at the time.
Especially against
um
like kids and teenagers.
yeah, that's another thing too is because like when we were talking about like the Hays
It's
Code and
pretty
censorship,
taboo.
that's another thing is like, oh, things bad things can't happen to children. um and but then you kind of watch, I don't know, to be fair, I mean it is a little weird because you can tell that none of them are actually teenagers. But I mean,
Yeah.
at the time, people probably were just like, "Oh, you know,
The quality, dude, was
this
probably so
feels too
shitty.
real to me." Yeah, that's another thing. I watched this in fucking ultra high definition on Amazon.
Yeah,
So
dude, you're watching that and you're like, damn, bro, you didn't decide to shave your entire mustache. Like,
yeah, like are the visual effects like the special effects like are they like that great? Not really. I like the first one that we see in the graveyard with the dismembered bodies, but everything after that kind of like the grandpa. Like I'm sorry, but like
yeah, it's
it's
really,
clearly
it's
just
not the
it's
greatest.
not even like prosthetics, it's just clearly like a mask that he's wearing, um,
Yeah.
which makes sense for Leatherface, but it doesn't make sense. I don't know. Like there's there's issues that I take with all of that stuff, but you know, again, it I understand why it's like an important like piece of media in like film history. Um, but yeah, I don't know if I'd be in any real hurry to watch it again. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. It's definitely one of those films you kind of just like maybe come back to in like 10 years and you're just like, oh yeah, you know what? I haven't seen that in a while. Or you like showing someone to show them like what a significant piece of like horror media is, or like not even just horror. I think Texas Chainsaw is just like a significant piece of film in history, in the filmography. Um, but this is not something unless you're like a true diehard where you're just like, you know what? I feel like watching Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah.
But the thing for me that kind of does it at least is they didn't treat it as like this kind of shitty horror film where a bunch of teenagers are getting slaughtered. Like they put time and effort into making well and creative shots. Like
Yeah,
I think a lot of the outdoor nighttime stuff, while it's pretty much pitch black, I think works for a lot of it because it makes you feel like you're going to this house that's in the center of this voidless area because the
yeah,
town feels like it's against you, and it's a house literally in the middle of fuck nowhere, Texas, with no lights. And I just think it adds a whole different like creepiness factor that you're thinking like even if she does escape the house, I mean even when she does, she gets lucky. It's like in the middle of the like, fucking morning once the sun starts coming up.
hmm
But it's just like even if she makes it out, like she's got this dark void that she has to travel to, and it's just this idea of it that at least definitely haunts me, and I have that reoccurring theme in Halloween or idea per se.
yeah. No, I agree. I think like from like a technical standard, I think Texas Chainsaw holds up pretty well. Like, I liked a lot of like the camera movement stuff. Like, I mean, yeah, there's that one shot that you were talking about, but there's other moments too where like they just, I don't know, they just move the camera in like very interesting ways. But I mean, then there's other stuff that I'm not really sold on. Like, I don't know, a lot of it's more like story stuff of just like, oh, I don't understand why we're focusing on like the house and how like decrepit it is because it's just like nothing actually happens at the house. Um,
Well, that's the thing. I think it also goes back to like the time this came out. Like the visual idea of just seeing bones just placed as like a lamp or something, like general household utensils we have, items, whatever. I think back in that day is fucking horrifying. To I don't think that's horrifying today,
I mean, like
but
none of, but I'm talking about the house like that they go to, like the one that's owned by Franklin's like grandpa or something like that.
oh, that one. Yeah, okay, I do
Yeah, and
agree
I
with
like
you.
I don't need to
I
see
do.
them fucking around like
Well, that's
I
what.
don't know. There's just so much of the beginning of the movie that just we never come back to and like has no like it has no like bearing on the story or anything that I'm just like I feel like they could have cut a lot of stuff and nothing would change, but the pacing would be a little tighter because the movie does kind of feel like a drag to me up until like the end, but you kind of have to get through a lot just to get there. And like if you're gonna just kill everyone like willy nilly like that, then we don't need to spend that much time with them either.
Yeah, that's the problem is you never get like once you get like a sense of like their friendship, you don't get a true understanding of like who their characters are. Like you can
Yeah.
essentially like make Sally and Franklin like not brother and sister, and it changes absolutely nothing about the story or anything any way the characters interact because like if you even think about it on like a brother sister level, it feels like they're just like playful friends rather than brother
Yeah.
sister most of the time. And it
Well, it
I
doesn't help that like Sally is kind of like a nothing character until all of a sudden the film like switches focus over to her because she's just the last person to survive. Because like honestly, I knew there was a final girl, but if I had gone into this movie blind, like not knowing who the final girl was, I would have expected it to be the brunette because we spend more time with her. Um, yeah,
Well,
I don't
that's
know.
why like I also wanted to talk about this one and have you watch it first is because I think it's like the groundwork for what John Carpenter kind of cements in Halloween as the traditional final girl, where it is that character you're not typically following at first or seeing as the main character, but as the film kind of goes along, he makes Laurie in Halloween a much more active character than Sally is in this film, especially like by the ending, because essentially Sally doesn't fight, doesn't do anything. All she does is escape her ropes and jump out of a window and runs away, and that's really nothing to write home about. And she gets lucky that a truck comes by and runs over it, like fucking slaughters the hitchhiker. Um, and I thought it was funny. I don't know if you thought this was funny, but the one dude who did stop for her, like the dick, once that other car stopped, he just ran the other way. The dude was not having it. I don't know if
Oh,
you
you mean the
noticed
truck
that.
driver, like
Yeah, the
the
truck
semi
driver.
driver? Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of funny that
I'm
he
just
just
like,
like
bro, did you just want to run, keep running the opposite way? I mean, good for you, bro. But I just thought that was a really just like generally funny moment to talk about.
yeah. I mean, some of it is a little silly.
Well,
I will
the
say
whole
though,
thing is silly.
there's less in Texas Chainsaw that is there's less stuff in Texas Chainsaw that I found like really silly like watching it now than there is in like Halloween and Friday the 13th. Halloween is crazy for how kind of silly it comes off at times. I mean, yeah, we'll talk about that, but at first I want to ask what your rating was for
Yeah, I
um
was just about to get into like what our ratings are. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars out of
mm,
5. Just because like I really tried to put myself in the era of this film when I try to at least watch this one, Halloween. Friday the 13th, and not as much because I don't think it really speaks as much all the time outside of like
yeah, not really.
the overabundance of
That's probably why I enjoy it more.
sexuality. Yeah, right. It's not trying to like do anything too special outside of show like some really cool kills and sex, right? Um,
It's
but
not that sexual.
I just
Like
appreciate
there's one sex scene in Friday the 13th and we don't even really see anything like in Halloween like there's like a character that just has her tits out like the whole time. But like at least in like Friday the 13th like there's one like brief sex scene and I mean yeah, they're kind of like dressed a little skimpy when some of them die, but I mean it's I don't know. It wasn't
But
that
like,
bad to
bro,
me.
that's not bad to us. That's what I'm trying to get at. That's not bad to us. Think about how crazy that would have been at being a 16-year-old watching that in the theater.
Okay, that's fair. That is
That,
fair. Like
that
again,
that's
yeah,
that's what I'm
yeah,
trying to say. Is like that's why it's like really hard to be so overly critical with these. Is because at least with Texas Chainsaw, like they didn't just make the movie to like what Friday's intention was is to like show
yeah,
really gory kills and to show hot teenagers dying. It actually was
yeah,
like trying to show off some filmmaking, and Toby Hooper, while not really saying anything with the script, I think he definitely tried to make an interesting film.
yeah. I think people like critics like tried to make Texas Chainsaw mean more than it actually does. I'm gonna be honest with you. Um, but I don't know. I think overall like these movies. Maybe that's my problem with a lot of these movies too is that it doesn't really feel like they mean anything in the long run except to just show people dying. But then when you watch this, like I don't even get to watch that because like yeah, I
It's
don't
such
know.
like the bare form of what you think of it as.
Yeah, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help that everyone talks about like I think the main problem with me watching these movies is that they get so overhyped on what like people like at the time remember it being. Like at the time people remember it being like hyper violent and disturbing and then so that's kind of like the legacy that it's had. And same with like Halloween and Friday the 13th. Like people remember it being like super like sexual and yeah, like and violent. I mean, Friday the 13th is definitely the goriest of the three that we watched. But again, it's
Easily.
not. I've seen worse. Um, and so I think because those are the things that I've heard associated with the movie so much, and like even in our horror class, like our teacher would not shut the fuck up about like how like sexual like Friday the 13th is and I don't know just some of the stuff that he said that like even when I was talking to you before I saw all these you like I didn't agree with that and then after watching it I'm like yeah I don't agree with anything that we were told in class like that's such a fundamental misunderstanding of the movie um but yeah so I feel like those aspects were kind of overhyped and so when I watched them and it didn't come off that way to me I felt like either disappointed or or genuinely like surprised in like a good way. Like I kind of like I like that Friday the 13th isn't overly sexual. I don't like that there's a lot of sexual stuff in Halloween because it really doesn't serve any purpose. But yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, I think that's the main problem is just that people have these preconceived ideas of what a slasher is and what it should be, and then when they talk about it like nonstop, it's just like you go in and you have your own viewpoint and it doesn't match what you've been told, and so it kind of makes the viewing experience less fun.
Let's
But
talk
yeah,
about Halloween though, bro.
yeah,
I think
Halloween. What
I think this
how
is
does the theme go? How, yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
I
know
just want to say, I fucking hate that theme after watching this
shut
movie.
the fuck up,
No, no,
brother.
but you know
Never
why?
say
No,
that.
you
Never
know
say that
why?
again,
You
bro.
know why I don't like
Stop.
the theme anymore? Because it's not because it sounds
He
bad. Like I think
uses it so
it's
much.
that's no, literally, it sounds like to me. It feels like the composer made two cues and called it a day, and then everyone else just fucking ran with it. Like
Well, bro,
literally,
that's what
every
I
time
was
he
gonna tell
shows
you a
up,
fun fact about that.
what is the fun? He composed it, didn't he? Isn't he the composer of that shit?
Yeah, but you
John
know why he's
Carpenter.
the composer, right? Because
Why?
they couldn't get any more money to hire a composer.
Oh my god, that makes it so much worse. Oh my god.
It was like
Wait, it's just
super
so
small
dumb
budget,
though.
bro. Well, then that's what makes like the sequels even funnier for these movies, is
Why?
because
Because they
like,
had the budget to.
well, no, John Carpenter really just wanted to make a bare like bare bones slasher film, and that's essentially like what Halloween is. And I
I
think it
guess, yeah.
I mean, dude, it's pretty bare bones, and I think it like cements the ideas that the slasher trope like starts to define more, and like the cabin
Yeah.
in the woods like really makes fun of, because Laurie Strode is the goody two shoes who's always too smart, but she also is she smokes weed here and there, so she's a little loose. But her
Yeah.
friends also smoke weed, but they're way more open with their sexuality. Well, and like that's obviously like opposed to
Literally,
like
their
their
entire
clothing.
subplots is about wanting to have sex.
Dude, literally. And I don't know if you like noticed, but like I forgot which girl it was that got choked out in the car, but like a lot of the kills are like sensually sexual in this film.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because, like, that one especially because as she's being choked out, like, she's on the phone with Lori and Lori's just hearing, like, oddly sexual, like, groans. And then she
Yeah.
thinks it's a joke. But also, like, the other character, what's her name? Fuck, is it Annie or something?
Yeah,
I can't remember
Annie.
anyone's names.
And
Annie,
Annie's like the best friend with the cop dad.
yeah, yeah, her, most of the movie, like that when it's actually taking place during Halloween, like there's moments like there's the scene where like she gets undressed in the kitchen to go do laundry, and then while she like the rest of the movie she's just in her panties the whole time. And then there's literally a shot like while she's like trying to escape. Oh, okay. Also, like, whose fucking laundry gets done in like fucking outhouse? Like that was weird to me. I was just like, I've never seen a house that had a separate, like a whole
All
separate
right.
like enclosed like um building to do laundry, and that was
Hey,
weird to me.
it was a
But
weird
but
time,
anyways,
brother.
like when she locks herself in, which I don't even know how the fuck she did, but when she locks herself in and she goes to like try and get out through the back window, she's literally just hanging over with her ass hanging out. Like,
Yeah, and she's calling like the little girl she's watching to like come pull her back in. She pulls
yeah.
up and her ass is just like straight out there, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting.
But Linda's her fucking name. The other blonde chick, Linda.
Yes, Linda.
Yeah, she's the one who gets choked, and again, she literally has sex right before. I think it's funny that like I think it's funny that what's his name, Michael Myers, waits for them to like completely finish having sex. Like
Well, bro, that's like
they both orgasm, and then he's just like, okay, now I can kill you.
that's like the whole like I think idea of Michael Myers and like the male gaze, bro. Like just watching, being a bystander, and then just disposing of whatever you're doing once you're tired and done with it. Like
I kind of
I don't
wish
know.
there was more. We had more insight into what Michael Myers felt and what his
Oh, dude,
motivation
just
was.
watch the Blumhouse trilogy.
I kind of don't want to though.
Because he's pure fucking evil! Sorry, those movies just get me really, really excited.
I
Dude,
don't know.
they,
The whole time I was wondering. I didn't understand why he cared so much about anything. And yeah, I don't know. I The movie starts out interesting with like his character, but then they don't ever do anything with it. He's just like,
so I can give you one of two answers.
uh,
Answer one is I can give you the whole synopsis for like the next 5 films, and that will explain your question in the
I don't think we
terms
have
of
time for that.
no. I could give you a brief synopsis, or you can just not worry about what those other films want to tell you because it's utter bullshit, and just like kind of make your own assumptions and make a
Well,
better assumption.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, after finishing this movie, I didn't really feel the urge to ever watch any of the other ones because, like, it doesn't do anything that, like,
Well,
yeah, I don't know. And
so
it's even more annoying when you told me that he didn't even want to make a sequel. And I'm just like, so why the fuck does the movie end that way? Like, why does it end with him not being dead? And also, how the fuck does he not die? Like, there's so many issues that I have with this movie. I feel like this movie is somehow like more disappointing than even Texas Chainsaw Massacre was. Because there's just so many story elements that I don't understand. The pacing is horrible in this movie. Like, I mean, I will admit that I did enjoy seeing like the the creepy stuff happen earlier, but it takes so long to get to like him actually like killing people. And then like I don't understand why he waits so long to kill people, as well as like, yeah, he just does the same thing over and over again. That's another thing that annoyed me, is just that, well, yes, the creepy stuff starts earlier. It's literally that's where the silliness comes in, because like he's not really doing anything that creepy. He's just like kind of like standing there in like broad daylight. And yeah, it's kind of creepy the first few times, but then he keeps doing it and they keep playing the same goddamn theme, and I'm just like, okay, I need to see something different. Like, this is it got to the point where it wasn't creepy anymore, and I was just like, okay, this is just like boring. It's a boring movie, I gotta say. Like,
the whole basis of Halloween, not just the movie, was supposed to be like a series of films,
an
kind of like
anthology.
an anthology, but like in the same vein as Saw. It's not Each film is not supposed to be connected, but they'd supposed to be released every single Halloween of every year, and they'd all tell a different story. And so
Yeah.
they made this one with the intention of it being a one-off, and so like a lot of your problems were like quote unquote intentional to kind of give yourself the own gap, because Michael Myers doesn't get the name Michael Myers pretty much. Like, he doesn't become known as Michael Myers until future films. He's like the figure in this first movie. He's just this
Well, I
this
mean, his
kind
name
of
is Michael, and
no, I
he's
know,
part of the
but dude,
Myers
he's not.
family.
No, that's what I'm saying. But he's not known as Michael Myers
You
until the
mean like in
later films.
universe?
Yeah, they call
Oh,
they
yeah, I
call
don't
him
really
like
care about
they
any of
call
that.
him like the figure. But my point is they never had the intention of a sequel, and then this film did really good at the box office, and told John Carpenter, if I'm remembering correctly, that they were going to make a sequel. They wanted his help with it.
Mm.
Like, their intention was to always make it with or without him, and so he needed the money. This film was also produced with his then friend, Deborah Hill, right? Is it Deborah Hill? I feel like I'm getting that wrong. Yeah,
Yeah,
Deborah
Deborah
Hill,
Hill. Yeah.
who also co-wrote it with him. They fell in love on this set and got married. So there's a happy story in there somewhere. But he essentially just wanted the money, and so because they were offering more money for him to come back and to make the sequel. And so in the sequel, you come to find out that Michael Myers is actually Laurie Strode's long lost brother, and he
I've heard
came
about that. Yeah.
yeah. And so then the third film is when the anthology stuff kind of comes into play.
I've also heard about that. Yeah.
It's a film that has nothing to do with the last two Halloween movies. And you remember when I made that joke to you about how Michael Myers is in the film? He just
Yeah.
plays like they play the second or first Halloween movie in the background of the scene. But like the whole plot of that movie is a mask company does like voodoo on its masks. And so when the kids put the masks on, it like mind controls them. And so like this cop just tries to go in and stops them. Totally different from what any other Halloween movie turns out to be. And then the other ones before they reboot is like Laurie Strode had a kid, and then that kid had a niece, and then he tries to kill the niece when she's 9 years old to like repossess her body, and then you find out that he is a part of a cult. So you know the doctor in the beginning of the first in this movie, that's walking with Dr. Loomis talking about Michael his
Yeah.
escape. So, bro, he doesn't come back until like the sixth film, and you find out he was a part of taking him out of prison and resurrecting him and like putting him under like some witchcraft shit.
Oh
Like,
yeah. See, so all of that is
it
fucking
becomes
stupid as
so
hell.
bullshit. That's what I'm
This is
saying.
why that's another reason why I don't have any interest in watching the other ones, because like I've heard they're all pretty much bad. Um,
Hey, Paul
and
Rudd's in one of them, bro.
yeah, I've heard that too. I feel, isn't that like
That's
the
the only
worst one?
redeeming fact. Yeah, it sucks. But that's the one with like the six different director's cuts. It's
Oh
got like
yeah,
a
yeah.
theatrical, director's extended, it's insane. And then you've got like the Blumhouse ones, like that timeline. And then you
Oh, you
got the
mean the
Rob
new
Zombie
trilogy?
timeline. Yeah, and then you have the H2O timeline where Josh Hartnett plays Laurie Strode's son, where they're both in college together. Like, dude,
What?
it's such a weird franchise.
I see. Yeah,
But
I don't
that's the
know.
thing,
It's
all
just
three of
my
these films have
problem.
weird franchises.
I can't even say that like it's a fault of like the franchise as a whole, because like there's equally stupid shit in this movie too. Like I don't want to talk too much about the franchise stuff because I don't really care about any of that stuff. I'm probably never gonna watch those movies
No,
unless
but it
we
goes
like
back
have
to
to.
you like all your complaints is like the answers you are like asking for I don't think are the good enough rather than you just kind of putting your imagination into it.
But it's still a fault of this movie that it doesn't explain anything. Like what's the point of the scene
I
at the
mean,
beginning of the movie if it has nothing to do with anything else that happens? The only thing, the only
I'd
reason,
argue.
the only the only point to like his backstory is that he comes back to this town. But it easily could have just been a random fucking town.
Well,
Um
it's not the town, it's the house.
what, it's the same thing. He comes to his hometown. Like
No, 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 no,
the,
no.
nothing
It's not
happens
the
at the
same
house
thing.
either. Nothing happens at the house either. Like that's another thing. Like the doctor and the cop like stake out this house, and like he never goes back there. Like he's there only to see Laurie deliver the key, and then for some fucking reason he develops this obsession with wanting to kill her or something. And I need the movie to explain a little bit more. Like I don't want them to like explain everything, because yeah, I'm sure the answer is fucking dumb, but I need a little something more. Like, you know what I mean? Other,
I
because
mean,
the whole
would
time I'm just asking, like, I don't understand why any of this is important.
let me ask you this. Would you think your outlook on that concept of the movie would change if you put yourself in like the shoes of a teenage girl just like constantly being stalked by like an unknown figure that you don't know and like give or take, I'm not saying like this was verbatim what the full intention was, but like this is at least what I got from it that you never know who's watching you no matter when, and this was like before technology too. So that's how I view it, is in the scope of a female teenager
Hmm.
under the male gaze of just someone lurking by. Because think about it, in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, there's a lot of killings going on involving young women. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
understand that, but my problem is that it doesn't work because because of the story inconsistencies. Like, if the movie never wanted us to focus on who Michael Myers is, then it shouldn't have gone out of its way to show him killing like his sister or whatever, and we shouldn't have focused on like the doctor like explaining like stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my problem, is that it I understand what you're saying, and like, yeah, again, like at the time that it came out, that makes sense, but also I never got the feeling that, because like Michael Myers treats, and the like the way that it's shot, it treats it like it's supposed to be important that he's like stalking the other victims in that sort of like sexual way, except for Laurie. But everything starts with her. So again, it's that inconsistency in that it doesn't really make sense when you stop to think about it.
I mean, why can't you just like make the assumption under the thought that like he views Lori as his sister that he killed? I'm not saying like
Because the
the
movie
film
doesn't treat
gives.
it that way.
I would argue because it's not a very. It doesn't treat any of it in a super distinctive way, and I think that's the thing with this film that makes it hard. Is it doesn't treat much of it in a very distinctive way. It
Like
doesn't
how,
give you very distinctive answers. It doesn't really
yeah.
let you know what's going on.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I just, yeah, I don't know. The movie's all right. Like, I don't want to say like that it's like, because I gave this a higher rating than I even did like Texas Chainsaw. I feel like there's too much that
Motherfucker could have fooled me.
there's just too much about this movie that I feel is inconsistent and unsatisfying, that I can't really like, yeah, I can't really like get behind it. You know what I mean?
That's fair. I don't know. I really. It
I can
is a bit
totally
slow.
appreciate it. I can totally appreciate it for the reason that you just stated, but like as like someone like watching it and like trying to like get into it, like into like the plot and like the horror aspects, for me it falters in that regard. And also cuz like the other thing too is that it doesn't even like, how do I say this? Like, the characters are never really clued in onto what's going on either, and I don't mean like they need to like fully understand like who Michael Myers is either, but the way that he like stalks them, like I never felt like the viewer or the characters were creeped out because he just kind of like appears out of nowhere and attacks them. Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
Like, I feel like if they wanted to like hammer down the point of like someone who's watching and like stalking them, they should have at least been included in a little bit earlier, but instead of like right before they're being killed.
well, that I don't know. He's in quite a bit of the background shots.
No, we see him in the background, but the characters never do.
No, I know, but I'm going to the point of you were saying like you didn't find that scary. For me, like I don't know, that's something that does it for
Well, I
me.
think
Is like,
part of the reason why I don't find it scary is because the characters never get to find it scary.
well, see, I my reaction isn't based off if the characters are finding it scary because you're seeing it under the notion that they're in danger and they just don't know it yet, and you know it, but you can't tell them, and that's the part that like fucks with me.
That could work if we hadn't seen it already, because the first like 30 to 45 minutes of the movie is him doing that, and then it stops being scary for us as a viewer. And then by the time you get to the point where we're supposed to be like worried about the safety of the characters, because the characters also don't get to have a reaction, we don't get to have a reaction. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I get how you're seeing it. I don't know. I feel like for at least me, it somewhat is enjoyable because it kind of feels like you never know when he is going to attack, but it goes into like that phallus state of maybe he's just waiting to kill those people who do that dirty act. who do have sex, who do curse and smoke a joint. Like, it's built all under like those typical slasher foundations of, if you do these things that are seen under like the eyes of the law as like illegal, like doing drugs or like underage sex, like things you shouldn't be doing at a certain age, you should get killed for it. And I don't know, it's just the idea of just waiting for like a ticking time bomb. And I find it more enjoyable because he's not relying on an abundance of like sound effects. And yeah, he does use the zinger quite often, but there's many where he doesn't use the zinger, and I've watched it plenty of times, and there'll always be a shot or two where I'm just like, oh, dude, I kind of forget he's there sometimes. And
Mm.
so, like, for me, that definitely creeps me out. And, like, it definitely doesn't fall under the same boat for everyone else and what they find creepy. Like what you were saying before, how you kind of, like, fall under the pretense of, like, enjoying more possession films and, like, supernatural type stuff with, like, The Conjuring. See, I like them, but like those aren't as scary to me as like Michael Myers just like stalking in the background of like a basic conversation. And I think that's like where the distinct line is for a lot of people, whether like they really enjoy it or they don't.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's not to say that I don't find like those more grounded things scary. It's just I don't think these movies do that great of a job of like keeping the suspense up. Um and yeah, I don't know. I keep going on about the inconsistencies with some of the stuff that you just said, but I don't think the conversation will go anywhere. Like just like yeah, yeah.
You sound really defeated.
Well, no, I like I'm not trying to convince you that you're
No,
wrong.
no, no. I
Um
know. That's why I'm just
and I
saying.
know
Like, I
you're
think
not
that's
trying to
why there's
convince
like,
me either,
yeah.
but yeah, I like just
No, yeah.
I don't want us to get stuck in the idea of us just like kind of saying the same thing over and over again. Um because I understand what you said like earlier about like is that like the idea of like, oh, if you do these things then you die. um but that also feels very inconsistent to me. um but again, like
And that's fair. Yeah,
we'll
that's what I'm saying.
we'll end up doing a back and I don't want us to end up like getting stuck in this back and forth of us just saying like the same thing over and over
No,
again.
yeah.
But yeah, I understand why this movie is so influential because yeah, the look of Michael Myers is pretty iconic. And I think when you first see him and he's kind of obscured, like that stuff is pretty effective. And there are some effective jump scares, like you were mentioning earlier when like, oh, I forgot that he was in there. Like there is some stuff in here where I'm just like, oh fuck. Like it actually did kind of get me. Like I was like, oh, that was a little, you know, heart pumping, I guess. Not
I
in the
like the
terms of like
one
I
when
got
she like,
excited, but
yeah, I like the one like where she backs up to the pitch black door frame, and like his mess just gets like a small silhouette before he fully comes out.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, the thing is like, I also enjoy it because I think they did a really good job with the lighting, at least in the
Yeah,
nighttime
100%.
stuff. And that's like what gets to me is like they really did something unique with the shadows that
Yeah.
I feel like Texas Chainsaw tried to do with like what I was mentioning with the whole house being in like this dark black void. But like, I think Carpenter does it really well. It's just like, is this guy moving through the shadows or something? Like, hence why they like refer to him as like the figure, because like he's a shadow that kind of looms over them almost, which I
Yeah.
think is an interesting concept.
Yeah, I think this one's like from a technical level, I think this one's like looks better, like it's shot better. The lighting is better. Um I think the
What?
acting for the most part is pretty good. I still think like I think I got a little more out of the performances from like Friday the 13th than I do from this one, but I can see
Wow.
why like Jamie Lee Curtis like really like um blew up
She,
after this movie came out.
bro,
Like
she
she's really
became the
good.
scream queen after this, bro.
Yeah, her screaming didn't annoy me as nearly much as Sally's did in Texas
It was
Chainsaw.
not high pitched, thank God.
The only other problem that I really have with this movie, and it's not just this movie, it's in every one of these, and we'll talk about it in the next one because it really annoys me in the next one. But the ending is way too long. Like the final confrontation, like I'm sorry, but it really
Oh
does take me out
yeah.
of it when I know that it's just a regular person and they just keep getting back up. It doesn't really make any sense to me how like and again it goes back to that thing of just like I can only see this so many times before it stops being scary and it stops being exciting. And so that's my only other issue. I feel like if the ending was a little like shorter, like they cut some of that stuff out, I would like this movie a little more.
Bro, maybe for Halloween this year, we should watch all the Halloween movies. Because I really want you to watch the Rob Zombie ones now.
I know
Because
you like those ones, don't you?
I enjoy the first one. I think the second one is atrocious.
I don't know. I don't want to watch. Like I said, I don't really feel motivated to watch any of the other movies in these series
Well, no.
because
So my thing is though, with like, I think at the very least, I get not wanting to watch the sequels, but I think it's interesting to watch the Rob Zombie one
it's a remake.
because not only because it's a remake, but it kind of fills in like those plot holes you're kind of discussing.
Does it?
Like it's essentially a remake, but
Don't
told
people
in a
not like
much
those movies though?
yeah. A lot of people don't like them. I'm
But you think
definitely
it's good?
I like it because it's a unique and different take on it, and
Mm,
I appreciate it because at least the first half of the movie they make Doctor they give more of a definition on Dr. Loomis and Michael's relationship and how Mike and how Loomis was like with Michael since he was a child. And like
mm-hmm.
you see much more of their relationship and like you see Michael's household where he came from. Like they give you identical reasons why he turned out the way he did and they still
Mm,
keep like the same structure. So the second half of that movie is the entire John Carpenter movie wrapped up
mm.
into one half. And
So it's
it's a
not as
real
it doesn't drag as much.
it doesn't drag, but it's a hard R version. Like, dude, people are calling each other dirty, filthy cunt bitches. Like, dude, it's outrageous, and that's why, like, I think a lot of people don't like them, is because Rob Zombie is kind of known for like going over the edge when it comes to like
Yeah.
words, the type of violence that he shows. Like, he shows like a lot of sexual violence.
Mm,
Um, in like more of his other films and like in the second movie, which is like a whole different thing. But like I think we should do like an episode on that and maybe like the Halloween Blumhouse that came out in like 2018 that is like
mm.
more of a mainstream timeline of like what happens after this film.
All right, we could probably do that because I don't
Yeah,
know. Like I said earlier, even before we got on the call, like I was going to watch the Halloween movies when Halloween fuck, what's the second one that came out? Um
ends.
no, that's the last one. It's
Oh wait, Halloween dies tonight? No,
what's
that's
the one
just the
that came out
name.
before Halloween Ends?
I know Halloween. Oh
Halloween
my god,
Kills.
Halloween Kills, dude.
Yeah,
That's
when Halloween Kills was coming out, because I had heard that Halloween the Jesus Christ, I hate that they call it they just fucking call it Halloween. What year did it come out?
2018.
Yeah, Halloween 2018. I heard that one was good. And so I was like, "Oh, maybe I should finally sit down and watch Halloween movies." But then Halloween Kills came out and everyone fucking hated it. And I was like, "I think I'm good." Like, I don't know, there's just too much baggage with some of these. And that's what kind of another reason why I don't want to watch the other ones because as much as I kind of felt disappointed by this movie, I feel like watching the other ones is going to make me even more irritated by how bad they are. And that's why I will say I will never watch the Friday the 13th sequels.
What about the 2009 like remake? Because that's actually a good movie.
of Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was a remake of that
Bro,
one.
2009 remake fucking rips.
Does it?
Dude, it's got Jared Padalecki in it and Danielle Panabaker. Fucking rips. It's actually
I
my
don't know
favorite one in
because like
the
again,
series.
I don't know. I just feel like I'm gonna be too annoyed by the changes in at least in Friday the 13th. Halloween, I don't really care that much, but I'm worried that it's gonna ruin it even more for me by watching them and realizing how stupid they are.
All right, what score would you give Halloween?
This one I gave it a 3. Um,
All right, that's still not bad.
it's like yeah, I like it again. It's not as it's Texas Chainsaw just isn't that great. Like, but the concept of Halloween I like more, and there are some kind of scary moments that is enough for it to like be a slightly better watch. And like this is honestly isn't that bad of a movie that I'd say I won't ever watch it again. Like, you know, it definitely feels like something like, oh yeah, this is on. I might as well just watch it. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a yearly film for me every Halloween. I can't sit
Maybe
here and
not
lie to
that maybe
you.
not to that extent.
Bro, I give this movie a 4.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's off.
Like, yeah, no, I'm a big fan of it. As people could probably tell, maybe just because like I'm a sucker for slasher films and like I don't know. I think Jesus Christ, I can not
You're
talk
not a real
properly.
horror
Yeah,
fan
I
if you
know.
get his name
John
wrong.
Carpenter. Um,
Well, see, what's funny is that we watched The Thing like a couple months ago. I really like that
Totally different
movie.
film.
That
This
movie's
came
fucking great. That
this
movie is
came out
like
before too.
legitimately like practically a masterpiece. But I wasn't vibing with this one.
Damn, bro, I'm disappointed.
And that's why I really wanted to like this movie too, because I liked The Thing. And then when I saw it, I was just kind of really underwhelmed. It's not as good as I wanted it to be.
All right, so now I need like your initial thoughts on Friday 13th.
I loved it. Well, okay, maybe not loved,
Loved
but
it's crazy.
it's just
That's
I guess to be
crazy.
fair, because I had just watched Texas Chainsaw and Halloween the night before, and I was so I had lost all hope, man. I had lost all hope that I was going to enjoy any of these movies, and then it started, and I was like, this isn't that bad, and so I just started like getting into it more than I really did with Texas Chainsaw and Halloween. So like yeah, it's not a great movie like Friday the 13th. It's pretty standard, but I think it's executed it's executed better than Halloween for some reason for me. Except for the end. I will admit the last like 30 minutes of the movie like are kind of hard to get through. Like that's the only thing that I'm really like as I was watching it I was like no, this is going to like ruin the movie for me. I'm going to have to give this like a 2 or something. It wasn't that bad. I wasn't that bad. I still rated it higher than Halloween, but not that much. Like I just the pacing is better and the characters are better. Like Laurie is okay as a protagonist, but again, like so much of the plot has nothing to do with her. Um, and then I you just kind of just you kind of the Friday the 13th is just a movie you kind of just get to sit back and relax and just have a good time. Um,
Yeah, you don't
and
gotta think too
so
much about it. It's a film
yeah,
that like doesn't care too much about its own self.
yeah, and that's another thing too. Like, honestly, I think I'd rather watch Nightmare on Elm Street than I would watch Halloween. Even though I think Halloween is probably technically, I would consider Halloween a better movie, like a better made movie. But I think I'd rather watch Nightmare on Elm Street, and the same with Friday the 13th. Like, they're just easy to just like shut your brain off and just enjoy than. But also, I think yeah, I just think like there's more suspense involved in Friday the 13th that I could get behind. And I kind of liked the subversions a little more in this one than I do in the other ones because like the movie starts off with I think her name's Annie actually, so uh,
Yeah.
another Annie. But it starts off with her, and you'd think that she would be like the protagonist and that she would end up being like the survivor, but she dies immediately. And I kind of liked that you know it again it turns it on its head, sort of like, because she's like the very naive and like innocent like type, like she talks about how like she loves being with kids, like working with
Yeah.
kids, um and then immediately she dies. And I was just like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like, yeah, I don't know, it was a more interesting watch for me in particular, but I know this one probably isn't your favorite.
No, I very much do enjoy it, but you're gonna love this fun fact.
Oh god.
So the the director of this movie, Sean S. Cunningham, who's also the creator, um, he didn't have a concept of what he wanted the movie to be after he announced the movie Friday the 13th.
Oh
He
my
just
god.
greenlit it because he thought the title sounded cool. So when he went to Victor Miller, who wrote the film, he
Hmm.
he gave him two films. He's like, make me a movie like these two. The first one was Halloween, and the second one was Alfred Hitchcock. He just said Alfred Hitchcock. So I thought that was very interesting when I found that out earlier today, because I did not recognize how much Halloween and fucking like all these like first person POV shots, like all these Hitchcockian type framework that he does with the camera in his films to build like tension and for the thrills.
Hmm.
Like bro, they fucking Friday the 13th literally recreates what's the guy's from Halloween's name? Bob, the dude with the glasses that
Oh
they literally recreate his kill with almost the same near looking character. It's the camp count, like the owner, Steve.
yeah,
They
yeah, yeah.
literally they literally look the exact same,
They
glasses and a
do.
mustache. Or well, the Bob doesn't have a mustache, but glasses and like the funny hairdo, and they both get like put up in a tree or a high area, and they swing down into frame to like scare everybody.
Hmm.
So that's also another reason why I wanted to watch these things in order as well, because of how much influence Halloween had on Friday the 13th, ironically enough.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I saw the inspiration when I first started watching it, but by the time the movie was over, I had completely forgotten about that note that I made a mental note. I had completely forgotten about it because I was just like enjoying the movie. It's crazy that like I kind of feel like this movie does what Halloween tried to do better. Cause like it's a big plot point with this movie that, because the counselors are just kind of like
Horned
like
out teenagers.
yeah, like foolish, like negligent, horned out teenagers, that I was missing from Halloween for it to really have that like thematic value. But yeah, I don't know. Cause like they both kind of start with like a POV style like scene of like someone getting murdered, and then I but I don't know. I think that's mostly it, because like again, like everything else kind of fits a little better here. Like this one is definitely one where I can see like, oh yeah, the tropes of the genre are like
Are
set in
evident.
stone here. But I think this one uses them a lot better.
So something that I think is really interesting with this film is, I know we've spoke about Tom Savini before in the
Oh
past.
yeah, 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 yeah.
This was his first actual VFX job working that didn't involve working for George R. Romero.
Mm,
Sean S. Cunningham saw his work on Dawn of the Dead and asked him to be like the lead VFX for this film. And so that's like another big thing that this movie got famous for, with its VFX and like the kills. Like
yeah.
these aren't
I
types
love
of
the gore effects.
this is where the slasher really started to have its framework, where this is the film that people expect when they hear the word slasher.
Mm,
Kills that happen in gory but yet interesting fashion, with a bunch of characters that are meaningless, but then you have your final girl who typically has a boyfriend, or some type of male character that she's involved with. Like all of that is evident in this movie, and this is like the prevalent slasher film. And
Hmm.
honestly, I think Tom Savini did a fantastic fucking job in this movie.
Yeah, I love all the blood effects in this. They're really good. Like the one where Kevin Bacon dies, that one's my favorite because it looked the most real to me. You can kind of tell on like, isn't there someone who gets like their throat slashed in this
Well, I
movie?
was just about to mention that was like my favorite one when she comes up from behind the tree and like slashes her throat. Like,
That
yeah,
one, that
the
one looks a little fake to me. But all the other ones are pretty good. Like, the one with the axe, that one's
yeah,
gnarly.
that's a really good one.
Like, I love that one. And again, like I think like the audience is in suspense better here, and so are the characters as well. And so it feels like a better payoff when they actually do die.
Yeah,
Um, I do kind of wish that we saw a little more of the, what was her name, Brenda. I wish we saw more of her like death because it cuts away from her like getting shot or anything. Because it kind of, because
yes,
well, and honestly, I don't even think she does get shot. Because it sets when we got to that scene, I was like, oh, this is really cool because this is a callback to earlier when that Ned guy shot the arrow at the target and she was standing there, but then like I don't think she actually is killed that way, which is kind of a little disappointing. But in the moment, it didn't really bug me when like her body is like thrown into the cabin later. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of cool stuff in here that I really enjoyed up until the climax. But the thing that I do like about the climax is that this is the only one of these movies that we watched where the final girl is actually the person that like defeats the main villain.
It still takes account into like that traditional slasher trope though, where she comes out like the other two don't fit because Lori gets saved by Doctor Loomis essentially
Yeah.
at the end,
Well,
and
no, is his name Loomis?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Doctor Loomis.
Yeah.
And then, oh my god, Sally, she just runs out of a window and runs away. She
Well,
literally
yeah,
just
she's saved
flees.
by two other people, like the
Well,
semi
she
driver.
got saved by luck, essentially. Like,
Yeah,
but
but the most important part is that she's essentially saved by two dudes. The semi truck
yeah,
driver
she didn't
and then the
save
pickup truck
herself.
driver. Yeah. Um and so that's kind of what I liked about this one. It is a little undermined by the fact that it again it it's a little too long. The climax of the movie is too long. The reveal happens and then she chases her around the camp, and my one issue is that again she keeps getting the upper hand only for the villain to keep coming. And by the time that she got to the docks, I was ready for the movie to be over. I was like, okay, you need to stop, like you need to quit while you're ahead. I'm starting to get
Yeah,
annoyed. Like, and again, like, it also doesn't help that she's old woman, and I'm like, clearly she's not strong enough without the element of surprise. So the fact that she keeps getting back up is taking me out.
yeah,
And
she's a sturdy old woman, bro.
I fucking guess she gets hit by with a frying pan. She gets hit
Bro,
with
she
a
needs to
fucking
like,
shotgun.
she literally needs to just have her hat like fucking batted off to just die. Nothing else
Yeah,
would kill her.
and yeah, and I'm just and also that moment is a little silly. Like and I don't mean the slow motion thing, like of her running of Sally, not Sally. What's her name? What's the main character's name? The final girl.
Alice.
Yeah, Alice. Not, I don't mean the shot of Alice running up to her, but the shot that follows it of her like opening her mouth like agape in like shock. I burst out laughing when I was watching that. Like that was so silly for no reason. I was just like, why would you do that? Like, and it's just a strange sequence of shots in like the non slow motion, and then the mouth agape, and then just her straight getting her head cut off.
Yeah, it's like super cheesy and campy.
Yeah, that's the one thing. That's the one thing where I really like. At the end, I was like, please, because I was ready to give it a 3.5 stars, and I was like, please, movie, please, don't fail me now. You just got to keep this up until the end of the movie. And then I was so close to giving it a 3 by the end because I was just like, this one thing. I just need you to do this one thing right.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this. Betsy Palmer, who played Mrs. Voorhees,
Hmm.
didn't want to do the film, but then she got into a car accident and like destroyed her car.
So
And
she needed the money.
yeah, but the money they were giving her was exactly the amount she needed, ten
Oh
thousand
my god,
dollars.
that's funny.
So that's just like a funny little note.
It does kind
But
of feel like she's phoning it in a little bit, I will say.
yeah, right. Like it is a bit of an over top performance all of a sudden from all these other
Yeah.
performances
And yeah,
that
and
you're
that's the
kind
other
of
thing
like,
because all the other performances are really good. They're solid, except for her. Like even the Ralph dude who's like the harbinger, he's kind of over the top and silly, but not to the same extent. Like he works fine.
which is something that I find interesting that you say, because I know that they didn't traditionally try to find like Hollywood actors from LA, and I
Mm,
think all the actors in this were like theater actor kids. So
that's interesting.
yeah, right. When I found that out,
That probably explains why it's not the performances aren't that bad for like a low budget style film because they
exactly.
at least with like theater kids they kind of like take it seriously. And I feel like if like there's a lot of other horror films that I've heard about where it's just like the acting is so bad because that was all they could find with the money that they had, and
Yeah,
also it was just a bunch of like random like amateur actors trying to like make their big hit.
I don't know if you know the big legal problem with
Oh
this
god.
film.
What was it?
Um, but Sean S. Cunningham, the director creator of the series, and writer Victor Miller have been in a legal dispute for the past,
Oh no,
I
I've
don't
heard of
know.
this. Yeah. This is why
Yeah,
there haven't been any more movies.
yeah, but you know what the whole
Probably a blessing in
argument is?
disguise.
You know what the whole argument though is, right? Well,
What?
no, they're making the spin-off TV show about his mom, Mrs. Voorhees, with Linda Cardellini, bro. So
Oh, I
like they're
didn't know
still
that.
making a project, but the whole idea is they're fighting over the ownership of who technically created Jason Voorhees. Victor Miller is claiming that because he was the one who concepted of the idea of like that dream twist at the end, he should have the rights from what I could tell. But Sean S. Cunningham is arguing that because he wrote the character in of Jason as like her son, he should get the original credit. And so that's what like the whole legal dispute's been, because they both also want to do two different things with the franchise. I think Sean wants it to stay in dead water, and Victor Miller wants to like have people make something of it. And so like
Mm.
that's where a lot of the problems rely. And I think it's really interesting because that's like the last thing you would probably talk about in this film is the person that is most notorious with this franchise.
See, that's why I don't care to watch any of the sequels because I know that it's something completely different, has nothing to do with the movie, and those are the aspects that I
Well, they
like about the
try, they
movie.
do try, and but they give up pretty fast.
I don't know. I just all everything I've heard just sounds really fucking stupid and annoying. So I don't have any interest in watching that stuff. On a surface level, like from what you just told me, I feel like it should be like Sean and not the writer. And but also it's dumb as hell because like did they not like write a contract for any of this? I don't know. That's
Well,
just
bro, they
my
were so.
surface
I
level
think it's so
thoughts.
like low budget that and unexperienced. I can't remember if it was this film or one of the sequels that got criticized for like using actual animals that to kill on a videotape before like it was illegal to do that, and you had to use like fake animals.
Mm,
So like a lot of really bare minimum filmmaking when I think it comes to like the legal side of things, you know.
hmm.
This is also in a time where you could get away with it and no one could care.
That's true.
So that is also the other thing. But to go against like your argument about the future films, I'm not saying you need to
Dude,
watch all of them.
there's literally a film called Jason Takes Manhattan.
That doesn't involve him going to Manhattan outside of the last 10 minutes. But that's neither here or there, Mr. Leonardo. I think, like, if you take them at face value as an individual film, like if you just watch Jason X by itself and not think much of anything else, it's a much better film, bro. It's really fun, but it also, like, each film they start to lean more into the campiness and not really caring about whether it connects or really makes sense because it doesn't, you
See,
know.
this is the one movie where I can't say that leaning into the camp side would be good because, like, Nightmare on Elm Street, yeah, you gotta go with the camp. Like,
Well, that's why I like the remake because it leans into the horror. It leans
mm,
it's not campy whatsoever. It's actually kind of grimy and disgusting. Like in that film, they like bro, in the remake they actually give you a reason for how he can arrive around the camp so fast. Like in the films,
so in the
like
remake,
they
is it actually like Jason Voorhees or is it the mom? Because I
no,
like
it's
that
like
twist.
actually Jason
See,
Voorhees.
I don't know if I'm down for that because I like the twist that it's the mom. Um, yeah, and because she has a backstory, she has a motivate. Everything feels like it connects better in this movie, and I don't want that to be ruined for me. I want to enjoy this movie. I want to enjoy my little movie, please.
No, I
Why
agree
can't we
though
just enjoy movies
ultimately.
anymore? Why is Hollywood ruined this for us?
Yeah, why do we have to just watch a third remake of something that only came out 25 years ago, guys? Um, but like this, I think was the film that really just started the true era of a slasher film,
Yeah,
and you could just kind of see it all on here. And I think you summed it up pretty well. It's got solid performances, and I think it's just got a lot of cultural history behind it that does, in my opinion, add to it a little bit. Um, but let's get to ratings. What would you rate this, man?
I gave it a 3 out of 5. Or sorry, not 3 out of 5. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. I liked this movie a lot better. I think the chills and thrills were better executed. But if I had to sum it up in like one word, I probably would use just solid. Yeah. Like everything feels like pretty well constructed. And it's a fun ride. It's yeah, like the characters are like well they're funny. Another thing I didn't mention either is that like I like how the characters like go out of their way to help each other. And there's not really like a sexual like undertone to like every scene and every character interaction. Like it just feels
Yeah.
like they're there to like have fun with each other. At the start. But yeah, yeah. What would you rate it?
Honestly, I was gonna say the same, 3.5.
It's
I
crazy that it's crazy that this is the one that we both agree on. Because like I feel like this is the one that like I was expecting to be the worst.
yeah, it's hard to say because I definitely thought you would Texas Chainsaw. I figured you'd have like those thoughts, but I was a little shocked with Halloween. I feel like with Halloween, at least for me, that's definitely like I feel like we all have that film nerd movie, and
Mm,
I think Halloween is like that film nerd movie for me. But like honestly, Friday the 13th is the most rewatchable out of
that's
these
yeah,
three.
yeah.
And I think ultimately that's really what matters at the end of the day for anyone going to watch a film. If you sit down, you watch it, and you enjoy it, fucking great for you. Um, yeah, what are we watching next week, though?
Um. Oh, this is I can't wait for this. So, for anyone who has been paying attention, Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith is being re-released in theaters on the 25th of April. So we are going to be talking about the Star Wars prequels, fat pile of hot garbage for the most part, and I cannot wait to talk about it because I have thoughts.
I don't know, bro. Clone Wars is pretty solid. I think it
You mean
outdoes
Attack of the
Episode
Clones?
4. Yeah, it outdoes Episode 4 easily.
You need to go wash your mouth out with soap because that is the worst one. That is by far the worst one. Like I cannot stand that movie. Like at least with Phantom Menace, I can kind of understand the plot, but like Attack of the Clones is just complete nonsense. Like
It, bro, it's just blue screen. That's it.
Now, if you do want to watch something good prequel era, then you should watch the Clone Wars because that is actually really good.
Don't lie to people like that, Leo. All
I'm
right.
not lying. I know I've seen all of them. But anyways,
Oh my
yeah. So
god.
go ahead and tune into us next time when we talk about the Star Wars prequels.
Cool. See you guys next week. Peace.